We were waiting for you.
I'm sorry, guys.
I'm Virginia. I'm from Trei Publishing House, your publishing house in Romania. And I will co-host our meeting with you with Ana Dragomir. She's a 13-year-old teenager who reads a lot, and she loved your book, Truly Devious.
Thank you so much.
We will issue the second volume of the series this fall because it had to be in the spring, but with the pandemic and
Sure.
other problems, it was delayed. But let's start the interrogation.
Okay.
How did you feel when you first published a novel in 2004, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, The Key to Golden Firebird. How was it?
So exciting. It seemed unreal because I always wrote. I've always been a writer. And then suddenly to be told that someone wants to publish your book, it sort of feels like a dream. You know, it feels unreal. And it's still very exciting. It's never not exciting.
And what is your modus operandi when you write? How do you prepare?
So when I first get an idea, I mull on it for a while, and it usually comes from one little fact or something I've noticed. It happens pretty quickly that I'll just realize I have an interest in something, and then all of a sudden the story idea comes from that. I write out of order, so I don't write from the beginning of the book to the end. I write in sections and scenes as I not as I think of them, but I outline a bit through sketching out various scenes. And then, for example, because it's a mystery, I often write the end first, because all of those events have to lock in to what happens earlier so that everything is correct. Also, today I'm not in New York right now, which is part of the confusion. I am in Massachusetts at Cassandra Clare's house. If you like Shadowhunters, I'm in her house, or I'm in her writing barn. So I have a barn behind me. It's very nice here. So not in the city, which is nice.
Yeah, it's great. I will let Anna to ask you a few questions about the Truly Devious first volume from series because she has a lot of curiosities about.
Okay. Hello, Anna.
Hello, Maureen. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
I loved your books. They are amazing, and I love your writing and the mysteries. They are really, really cool.
Thank you.
So I was wondering what was the idea behind the Truly Devious series?
I wanted to write a very classic style mystery. I wanted to write a detective novel. And in order for my detective to be the age that she is, I built Ellingham Academy for her. So I really built it from the ground up. And I love tunnels. I wanted something that felt like a country house mystery, a place where you go and it's remote and the murders happen. So all of that is really designed to be like a classic detective story. But everything that's built there is all I draw a lot of maps. I like maps a lot. I bought a bunch of antique maps of that area, so I knew exactly what roads were around, and so maps and I basically built a little murder machine for my book.
That's amazing. It's a really cool mystery. Do you research before you write, like ways to kill or how to erase your tracks?
Yeah. I've always read a lot of mysteries, and I read a lot about true crime. This is really something I love, and so I was able to use the database of facts that I had unwittingly collected And in order to do the murder that happens in the first truly devious book, I knew what I wanted to do, but I consulted, I went through a lot of forensic papers, and I also spoke to a submarine captain and a bunch of engineers to make sure that I knew what I was doing, that it would work correctly.
That it would be a perfect murder.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the people I worked with, or I talked to was, he has a PhD in fire forensics, but they understand certain chemicals and certain spaces. So, I mean, I was able to talk to a lot of fairly cool people to make sure it was.
And where does the main character Stevie Bell come from?
She is, I mean, she has a lot of my interests. She likes true crime. She's obsessed with mysteries. She would prefer not to go out if she doesn't have to. She is a little anxious, and she just wants to solve a crime. And those are all things I relate to strongly, but she's not me. I just wanted to, she wants to be that's her. If you want to be a detective, you have to, I think, come from a certain mindset. And so I really started with how do I build my detective? What does my detective look like?
She's a great character. And Elegum Academy seems to be a really cool place to learn. So did one of your schools inspire it?
No, my schools weren't like that. I mean, I really built maybe my grade school a little bit. Now that I'm being honest, definitely not my high school.
Okay.
But it really was built. I figure, when you write a book, you really have a chance to create something from scratch. And I'm very detail oriented when it comes to architecture and planning and things like that. And I built it to purpose. I built it to be a machine for this book. The building itself is slightly based on a building in America called the Winchester Mystery House, which was built by a rich woman who thought that if she was very, very rich, and her fortune came from a rifle company. And she was convinced that the ghosts of the people that had been killed by the rifles haunted her. And the only way to keep them away was to never, ever stop building her house. So her house was under construction nonstop for about 20 years, and they would just build staircases that went to nowhere, doors that opened onto, they just built windows that led to nothing, doors that led to nothing.
Wow.
It's a very strange house.
So strange.
Thank you, Anna. I think we already have a question from Lizzy.
Okay.
Lizzy?
Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So I have two questions. The first one is, how long did it take to write Truly Devious?
So I sketched out all 3 books because it's basically one continuous story.
Yeah.
And I think each one took approximately a year with a little bit of extra time for all of the planning.
Okie dokie. And the second one is, Let It Snow is the title of one of your books. I know it's a metaphor, but what's your favorite season of the year?
Probably summer.
Okay.
I like long days. I don't like short days. I like a lot of sunlight.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
By the way, all of your English is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I was actually born in England.
You have an English accent. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah. Anyway, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Lizzy. Thank you. I know you initially planned a trilogy, but then you wrote the 4th book?
Well, it's not going to be a continuation of that story. It's a new case.
Okay.
So we'll have characters from those books, but it is a completely new mystery. I wanted to create a detective like a Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot that solves other cases. And so she is going to go solve a new case.
Great.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, and I liked the I don't know, political twist at the end of the first volume. When that mean politician enters the scene, although he was present all along the book.
You know, we have some things going on here in America that are difficult, and sometimes you have to talk about what's going on to some extent, and you can't ignore the world. So even if it's fiction, there's some real world in there. So
yeah, I know, because you have a podcast channel, Says Who, created as a coping strategy after 2016 election. Please tell us more about it.
My friend Dan is a journalist, and he wanted to do something in 2016 where we spoke to journalists about the election. And we only thought we would do it for 8 weeks, but things in 2016 didn't turn out the way we hoped or thought. And so we continued because it's certainly America is going through quite a time. There's a lot of upheaval here. So I've always been involved in terms of politics and young people, because young people are very, very active in politics and can make major change, which has been shown. So I've been working with people under the age of 18 since 2008 in terms of politics, because you guys change the world constantly and are leading change, and you understand the internet better, and you are very, very important to all of the current events. So but my friend Dan asked me to do this, and I did it again, thinking it was a short project, but we're still doing it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yes. Tell me, you just told us about the Says Who, but what do you think is the role of a writer, especially a writer for young people in the society, in the community, in the world?
I think it's anything you feel that it should be, because some people feel comfortable. Some people, there are people that they feel their role is, I want to create a full fantasy world, and my job is to provide a fictional world and really maintain that. Some people are and purely stay there, and that's valid. And some people want to get more involved with politics, and that's valid. I believe that everybody's individual choice in this matter is what's valid. You have to do what you feel is right or functional for you, because every writer is different. And for me, this is what feels right for me, so that's what I do. But I have never believed anyone that says that writers or writers for children should not touch political subjects, because that's nonsense. It's not like young people are unaware of the world that they live in or are not impacted by it. That's ridiculous. So it's just as valid as anything.
Thank you. You had in 2011 a great message as a reply to a Wall Street Journal article, I guess, about the how young fiction could influence choices for teens and corrupts teens, and you just said no, it's not true. How was it? How was all about?
I'm not sure which exact thing you're.
It was a parent who found one of your book in a
okay,
and he was very upset.
Yeah, we have that. I don't know how much this happens in Romania, Certainly in America, some people want to ban books or take them out of schools because it's their opinion that, sorry, there seems to be a plane overhead. It's like an old-fashioned looking plane too. I think the past is coming.
Yeah.
But individuals maybe decide that this book shouldn't be here in the school. It has gay characters in it. It has whatever, something I don't think is right. And they try to have them removed. It happens quite a lot. And I think that certainly I'm going to fight that in every single case. And because it's actively, in the cases like that, it's actively damaging to readers who are gay, readers who are, it's damaging to everybody. And so I think you always have to speak up and fight that every time. There's a lot of battles to be fought here right now. And so you get roped in, I think, whether you want to or not, because of the nature of, you're seeing in what I do a lot of what's happening in American society, which may or may not be reflected in Romanian society. But there's a lot of battles to be fought here. But I think there's always a lesson, for no matter where you're at, that you have to stand up for each other and do what's right, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes. Because some of these things aren't comfortable. It's not comfortable to go up and tell someone that you're going to push back on what they're saying. It doesn't always feel good, but you have to do it.
Yeah, you're very right. Now we have a question from Anca Cruceru, and after Anca we will get back to Anna because she has 2 more questions. Anca?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm very glad to meet you. First of all, I want to say that you're an incredible author, and I really love your books. I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, how was it for you to collaborate in writing with Cassandra Clare and John Green, like as an experience?
Well, they're good friends of mine. As I said, right now I'm in Cassie's house, or her writing house, which I feel like at some point I should show you because it's incredible. And I think it partially answers. Would you like to see it a little bit? It's kind of cool.
Yes.
Hold on, you're gonna see. You guys, because I had the wrong day, I don't have makeup on or anything. Hopefully you're forgiving me. I have a dress on top of pajama bottoms. Shh, don't tell anybody.
You look great.
My dog.
Yes.
So here we are. We're going into the barn now. This is my dog. There she is.
Oh, nice.
So behind me is a antique apothecary, like an old poisons bottles, and over here is a Victorian bar full of shadow hunter equipment from the movie, and steampunk appliances that look like this. So everything in here is sort of a work of art. It's really quite amazing. There is an English phone booth in here with controls that do all kinds of magical things. Oops, are you guys still there, or did I just move the window? Okay, good. It's not a flattering photo, but okay. I'll quickly go past this. So she's got a beautiful library with like a rolling.
She has a lot of books.
Yeah, with a rolling ladder, and there are all kinds of clockwork. There are angels above, and that's an office up there. So this is an amazing writing space. So I just wanted to show you that because I wanted you to see a very, very cool writing space. And there's a big table over there where many writers can work at once. It has 8 little writing stations because there's a lot of people up in this town that are writers and work together. Holly Black and Cassie Clare and Kelly Link, and when I'm here. And I love writing with my friends because writing is a very solitary thing, and your job is to make up stuff and to chatter away in your own head. And it's having other people to talk to that love stories and to talk to when you're stuck So I can call Holly day or night and say, I have a story problem. And she's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. So being able to work with people that are everybody here has like a different story skill. So if you have a romance problem, you might go to one person. If you have like a story block, you might go to another person. It's wonderful.
I believe that. Thank you for showing us the house. It looks like a library from the Shadowhunters world.
That's what she built, basically. I mean, a bunch of those things in the cabinet are from the movie. So there's a bunch of kind of steampunk machine hands and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Every time I come here, I'm like, this is very cool.
It's like the inspiration place, an inspirational place.
She decided to build a kind of palace to her love of books. Like she's like, I'm going to build a beautiful thing for books that has art in it, that reflects the world. So when you are here, you do feel like you're in a Shadowhunter library, for sure.
She remained connected with that series. And now, my second question is, do you find hard to disconnect with your thoughts and with your soul from the book that you have just written and just jump into another book and begin another story?
It takes a little while, not too long, but it takes to get into the new series or pattern. Usually happens over the course of a few months. I do feel that probably people that read, sorry, I'm gonna hold it a little bit there. I think all my books sound like me. I feel like people can always tell that it's me, which is, fair because it's me. And but to make the switch, weeks or months.
Are you not afraid to use the same ideas or rewrite something that you have just already written?
Yes. I worry about that a lot.
I understand. Thank you for answering me these questions.
Sure, thank you.
I was glad to meet you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anka. Anna?
So my question is, what makes a good mystery?
Okay, now that's a question. There are lots of rules of mysteries that have been written over time, and obviously you can abide by them or violate them as you like. I think that a good mystery has fair play. The solution can't be something that the reader absolutely doesn't know about. You have to have clearly seen the person who did it. It can't be someone that you've never met, because that's not fair. I think there have to be fair indications or clues that you could pick up on, because mysteries are a game. They are a puzzle, they're a game, they're inviting you to participate. And I think that you have to always remember fair play and really check that you've given the reader enough without giving too much. And it's fair to mislead them. Oh, hello, giant bee. Then you have a giant bee come, and that's always how it ends. The bee comes and then you run away. Fair play, clues, misleading is fine, but not, you never lie, but you misdirect. I guess the thing that I keep saying over and over again is a sense of fair play.
Okay. And a book recommendation. What is your favorite book?
Oh, I don't have a favorite book. And every time I'm asked this question, I panic because I always feel like I should have an answer. And I don't. Giant bee. Sorry. I'm not used to being outside because I live in New York City. So now that I'm outside, I'm like, where are these bees coming from? What do they want from me? I have so many favorite books. Truly, I mean, I guess that's the thing is there are too many wonderful books in the world. I certainly have ones I go back to time and time again, I certainly have ones I remember from times in my life that were my favorites. So the one I talk about a lot when I talk about this book is a book called The Westing Game, which is a mystery. It's a middle grade, kind of younger mystery that I read when I was a kid, and I loved. To decline a call from my mother. There we go. Sorry, guys. I don't know if you heard that ringing or not.
We did, no problem.
That was my mom, everybody. My mom was like, "What's up?" The Westing Game really influenced me a lot when I was a kid because it was a mystery in which a girl, I guess is 10 in the book, solves this amazing murder mystery puzzle. I just loved it so much, and it's such a good book, and I reread it regularly. So it's a wonderful book. But it's so many good books.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I have a question from our partner, Cărturești, the bookstore chain that organizes the festival with the Trei Publishing House.
Thank you.
They want to know if you have a favorite bookstore and what do you like about it?
There are, what's my favorite? I've seen a lot of beautiful bookstores traveling around, going on tours. There's one in I forget, is in Connecticut. It's run by Jeff Kinney, who writes the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and it's a beautiful bookstore that he built from scratch, and it's gorgeous. It's all made of local materials. It's a big hub for local events, and the top 2 floors are all this kind of Diary of a Wimpy Kid wonderland that it's amazing. It has light up clouds that descend from the ceiling, and he has a lot of events up there for readers, and the whole 2nd floor is a giant open space that people can perform in or just hang out and read all day. And I think maybe that was my favorite because I've never seen such a giant space that invites people to come and hang out for as long as they like, all day long, in giant comfortable chairs, and sit and read and talk and play musical instruments, and it's pretty great.
When this pandemic ends, and we hope it will be soon,
Sure.
We invite you to Romania because Cărturești has a magnificent bookstore in an old building. It's one of the most beautiful bookstores in Europe.
I would love to go to this bookstore more than I can possibly explain to you. I would love to come to Rome. Oh, it would be amazing. Hopefully we'll all get out. So this is the first place I've been. So I was able to come from New York City, which was fairly heavily hit by the pandemic, and I was there through the worst of that, and so it was safe for us to travel, and so we came here to isolate for a couple of days. But I, like you guys, pointedly look forward to getting out. I hope you're all okay, and I hope that your school arrangements are all good. I don't know if you're going back to school or if you're going to do some school from home or a mix of them, but I know it's very confusing right now and it's a lot to take in. But hopefully you'll have really interesting stories later on about the year that you spent partially at home and partially in school, and you'll have a lot of good stories to tell people, and you can say, well, during the pandemic I did these following really cool things that were wild. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, you're right. Let's be positive. The next question is from Sara Maria.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. I'm very happy to meet you, and I have a question for you. Do you remember which is the first book that made you cry?
I don't really cry a lot while reading. I'm not John Green, who cries constantly while reading. He's my friend, and I'm always, that's, John just sits there and cries and types and types and cries. I definitely feel pangs, and I can't read anything in which an animal gets hurt.
Okay.
I put the book down. I can't do it. I am, that's my
Me
thing.
too.
I'm like,
Me
oh,
too.
you hurt a dog? Goodbye, book. Sorry. I know you're probably a good book, but you have to go now. And then it goes out the window. Sorry, book.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We have another question from Sia Stanila.
Hi.
Hello.
I want to tell you that I appreciate you so much and I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Are
you have no idea how delighted I am to be speaking at a Romanian book festival.
I wanted to ask, what are you reading now? It's kind of basic, but yeah.
Sure. I'm reading a classic mystery that I've never read by Dorothy L. Sayers. I'm reading a few history books that relate to the solution to the mystery that I'm doing now, so I can't talk about what they are, but there are a few nonfiction books. And I'm reading also A Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, partially because I'm in her house, and I'm just reading it so I can read the next one.
So cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sia. You just mentioned John Green, and we also translated in Romania Let It Snow, which you wrote along John Green and Lauren Miracle. How was this literary cooperation?
It was very fun. It was kind of a small project. We decided, it was a Christmas story. So it was, John called me one day and said, do you want to write this Christmas collection? And I said, yes, because I like Christmas. And I wrote into the story, and if you've seen the movie, it has a big village, like a Christmas village of figurines. And that's based on my mother's actual Christmas village, because my mother is a very obsessive Christmas decorator. And our whole house is converted to an entire giant Christmas village, every wreath and bow and thing in the window and the village. And so I poured in a bunch of stuff from my actual life. But most of it was, I wrote a story that led up to John's story. So mostly I was trying to make John laugh or give him hard problems that he had to solve. So I would put stuff in my story that he had to deal with, and that made me laugh. So it's just a lot of our two stories are John and I playing with each other, and kind of, he's like a brother, I kind of mess his hair up, and he's he's a very funny, lovely person. So it was a lot of fun doing it, and it was very exciting going to the movie set. All of that was I'm on a movie set now. This is all a real thing that's happening.
And what was the movie? After you wrote the book, you were on the set, and then the movie came out.
Yes, the movie came out, I guess, 11 years after the book.
Yeah.
So, it had been around for a while, and then suddenly there was a movie being made. And I have to say, being on a movie set is like being on a movie set. It's weird that something turns out the way you imagine it will be, and you show up and it's hard to explain, but you walk into a big sound stage, and they've built, there's a diner that's a big part of the setting, and that's not a separate, they built that. They built an entire diner inside of another building. So I walked into a giant sound studio, and there was a diner that they had built. That's weird. That's a weird thing to see.
A building inside a building.
Yeah, a building inside of a building that's based on something you said.
Yes, indeed.
Very odd.
Yeah. Now Catalina has a question for you, or maybe two. Catalina.
Hi, I'm so glad to meet you, even if it's online.
Nice to meet you.
So I have two questions. What is the most difficult part about writing for you?
What's the hardest part?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes you just have nothing. You know, there's just nothing going on. You try to think of what to do or say, and you look in the cabinet in your head and it's empty, and you say, uh-oh, my brain cabinet is empty. That's going to be a problem. But you still have to write. And the way out of that, I mean, is usually by writing. It's usually not that you can't write, you just don't know what to write. And so you have to go back and make a plan and say, okay, let's just figure out what happens here. You don't have to write it, you just have to figure out what it is. You have to poke at yourself a little bit when you're stuck, because the inclination when you're stuck is just to run away and not do it, because you think, oh, I don't have any ideas, I guess I just leave. But you can poke your brain into getting going, usually by picking at the problem or making it into much smaller problems. If you look at the giant thing, I can't write a book. Okay, so let's figure out what you can write. Let's look at this one scene. Let's look at this one thing. Let's just do one thing. And usually just by starting, that's how you kind of get yourself moving. I think that's true of a lot of things. If you're like, I can't exercise. Okay, can you do this thing for 5 minutes? Can you stretch your body like this? Can you just try it a little tiny bit? And you kind of you move yourself back into the process of doing it. If that makes sense. Hopefully it does.
It does. Thank you. So my second question is, if you could read a book for the first time, again, what would that be?
Ooh. I guess probably The Great Gatsby, which was one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite novels. I guess it would be really nice to be able to read that again for the first time. But there's a lot of books. Basically, every book I like, I have that thought of, I wish I could clear my brain and do this again. You know, and I bet you have the same thing. Just like, I can't believe I finished that. Now what will I do? What goes in that hole in my life? And then you find the next one.
Exactly. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Catalina. Anca Cruceru has a new question.
I also just want to point out that all of you have very neat rooms. They're all very tidy.
Hi again.
Hello.
I've just figured out that I have one more question. Have you known from your childhood that you're gonna become an author?
Yes. That's what I said when I was little. And naturally, everybody said, okay, but what are you really going to do? And I said, I'm going to be an author. And they said, yes, but what are you really going to do? And I just kind of stuck to my story. Because writing was all I ever did. It was my thing. I did other things, but it was my thing. It was, I think sometimes you know your things. It's also okay not to know your thing, because a lot of people are like, I don't know what I want to be or do. And that's reasonable. And sometimes you have a feeling like, this is my thing. This is who I am. So yes. Then now I can say to my parents, see, and they're like, yeah, you did say, you told us, and you did it. So that's surprising. And I'm like, I know, I did the thing.
So I guess So I guess that you find brief is a topic for a new book or a new subject. I mean, new ideas always come into your mind, right?
No, not all the time. Especially when my brain knows that it's time, like when I'm done something or I'm almost done something, I feel like my brain sends out an advanced scout. Like there's just of the little army that lives in my head. Someone goes, pretty soon we're going to need something new. And then just one goes out and looks around and then comes back with a sentence It's like, why are these ghosts so annoying? What if you did this? What if, and it really usually comes as the form of one small idea or one sentence that I start to poke at. But I'm not one of these people that's constantly having, that's a bee. It's the bee thing that keeps, my dog's going to come out here and try to eat that bee. She has mostly tried to eat bees while she's been here. And we keep telling her, do not eat bees, but she's not listening. I'm not one of those people that has 25 different ideas when they're writing the book they're writing. I really do kind of stay on the thing I'm doing. I live there, and I don't look around for other things until I'm pretty much done and ready to go.
And you have like, before you begin the story, you already know like the plot and the ending?
No, that takes a while. But with the mysteries, you have to know the solution. So with mysteries, I start with the event. I start with why and who, and I build out from there. So with mysteries, I sort of build the little mechanism in the middle, and I don't do anything else until I'm 100% sure that I know why everything happened, because mysteries spiral outwards. The little thing happened, the murder, the event, the thing that, the bee, the thing that made somebody want to kill somebody else, and then that crime, and then everything that comes out from that middle are the clues, the stuff that kind of flew off, the piece of paper that landed in the fireplace, the footprint, the voice in the hallway. These are all things that kind of flew around this central event. So that's how I do mysteries. Mysteries, I absolutely have to know how they end. With my other books, I didn't have to do that. So I could just kind of freewheel and go screaming into the night and go, I don't know what I'm doing. But mysteries, I have to know the ending, which is really useful.
Yes, of course. Thank you. There was more than a question, but thank you.
Anka, you can continue if you want.
Yeah,
to ask more, ask.
I want to think for a while because
Okay.
I have lots of questions, but now they are just
Okay.
in my head and I can't find them.
Then we'll get back to Anna.
So I wanted to ask you, who is your favorite detective?
My detective growing up was Hercule Poirot, who's written by Agatha Christie. I loved him so much. He was my first fictional love. You know, he was my first fandom. He was my first obsessive. You know, I thought about him all the time.
I know how that feels like.
Yeah, he was my guy. And because of that, he still lives in my heart as my guy. I always loved Sherlock Holmes. I have always been very attached to all of the two major shows. You've probably seen Sherlock, and the one that came out before that, which had another great actor in it. And I've always been very attached to him. There are a lot of good detectives, but it's a very common, actually, there is a character named Harriet Vane, who's written by Dorothy L. Sayers. I love her. There are a lot of good detectives, but the one that my fandom, my guy, he's my guy. And he lives in me always. Like he's always, you never get over it. He's always there.
I know how that feels like.
Yeah. He's always there. You don't just forget. You don't just forget who you love.
Exactly.
Thank you, Anna. You have a major in writing and theatrical dramaturgy. Mm-hmm. Do they blend in your writing for teenagers, for young people?
I think they do, because I worked on scripts for a long time. So I was writing both prose and scripts, which meant I had to do a lot of dialogue work. And so I had a lot of training in specifically dialogue and how dialogue functions on stage and on the page. And that is a skill that was really, really helpful. I think of things sometimes in terms of dramatic structure. So we were never really taught structure in writing school. We were never taught fictional structure, strangely. But I learned a lot about fictional structure in theater school. That always surprised me. There was not I would have an MFA in writing and there was nothing really taught about story. Very odd, but true.
Yeah, you mentioned before Great Gatsby, and it hit me sorry, it hit me that Alfred Ellingham had something in common. He and Gatsby played with life, in some different ways, and life gets back to them in a quite ugly way.
And it's talking about this. If you've ever read The Great Gatsby, it takes place in the 1920s in New York City.
Yeah.
And it's very much the same atmosphere.
Yeah.
And also in Truly Devious, there's the kidnapping of the wife and the daughter is loosely based on a real life event, which was there was a man named Charles Lindbergh who was the first person to fly from the United States to Europe. And he was very, very, very famous. He was the most famous person in the world. And someone kidnapped his son and held the child for ransom, and the child was killed. And it was an incredibly famous case. And so I used a little bit of that as well in the Ellingham kidnapping case. But that atmosphere of the 1920s in New York and the self-invention, I really love that period. And there are a lot of mysteries written in that period, which I think is partially why I chose it. And partially why you want to do one in the past is because right now, so much of crime is about, is there a DNA sample? But back then they just kind of walked all over crime scenes, just smoking and moving things and touching things. They'd say, oh, there's fingerprints on this. I guess I should lick it, and then smoke on it and move it around, and I'll step on everything. And so you can write stories from the past without having to rely on the answer is in a DNA swab.
Great. Let's say you'll have a dinner party tonight.
Okay.
Contemporary writers and dead writers. Who would you invite?
Let me think about this for a second. I'm also going to move back inside because because this bee is chasing me, you guys. My computer is running out of power. I'm going to think.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to have Agatha Christie because I love her. And she was a very cool lady. She also orchestrated her own disappearance. And she was a surfer. And she was an archaeologist. And so not only was she a great mystery writer and a dramatist, but all these other things. Being a surfer back then, I mean, that was kind of amazing. Now you can see some of Cassie's books. So we can, who should we pick? Who should we have? There's so many people I want to invite, but you know what? Some writers you love are terrible people. So I love their books, but I don't want to have to deal with them. So that's especially a lot of people from the past. They would be a handful. I'd like to meet Dorothy L. Sayers. I'd like to meet, God, this is a hard question.
Josephine Tey.
Yes, I'd like to meet Josephine Tey. I'd like to meet, that's another great mystery writer you should read. And you should start with The Daughter of Time.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I read it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's where someone is confined to a bed and he tries to solve the mystery of what happened to these two princes that were in real life murdered in the Tower of London. Whether or not Richard III killed them. It's a good English past mystery.
Yeah, I know.
This is one of those questions that sends me into a blind raging panic. It's what your favorite books and authors and people you'd like to meet. I always kind of go blank and go, because it's a big world and it's a big, but also I also don't want to be spoiled if I meet someone and find out that, especially past people, I'm like, oh, I don't want to know what you were up to. I don't think I'd actually like you.
Okay.
You could be a mess, so I'm going to stay here and read your book. Don't come back from the dead.
Okay. We will get back to Anka because she has a new question. Anka?
Hi for the third time. First of all, I want to ask you, would you like to meet Edgar Allan Poe or Arthur Conan Doyle? Because you mentioned Sherlock Holmes.
So, two things. One, Edgar Allan Poe, yes. I feel like he would probably be a slightly difficult character, but fascinating. So, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, interesting fact. When I met my husband, who is an English person, he's over there wandering around. He's looking at me now because he hears he's just like, here I am. He comes from a little English village. I mean, a really little English, the kind that looks like you go there to get murdered in. Absolutely, that's what it looks like. And he walked me down the little dirt path because he lives in the woods. This is in the woods. He grew up in a forest. And he walked me down the little dirt path to the village church that's 1,000 years old. And then he kind of pointed, then there's a horse and there's this and there's that. Oh, and that's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle over there. And I said, what? And it turns out that Arthur Conan Doyle is buried there. He's just there. He's just sitting there. Well, he's lying there. He's under the ground, but he's there. So his parents helped take care of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in real life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where he's buried, and so they helped take care of him. He's just there. So I kind of did get to meet him because he was just there, and I was like, oh, hi there. And people put pipes on the grave, but he's just a couple yards down the road from where my husband grew up.
Was this a long time ago?
No, he's still there. Yeah, he's just there. When we go there, we walk past him. I say hi. He's just there.
I don't get it. Are you talking about the statue? Because I don't understand.
His grave.
His grave.
Oh, his grave.
Yes, his grave.
Thank you.
Buried there. Sorry, he's buried there.
Okay. Yes. Now I get it. Okay. I want to ask you a piece of advice.
Okay.
Because sometimes some stories ideas are getting into my head, but I waste a lot of time thinking of the names of the characters because I don't find most of them I don't find appropriate for the protagonist of a story. So I don't know what to do because it's a dilemma for me.
I think that's a common thing for your brain to get stuck on, because you'll just start to fixate on various elements that aren't. It's very common. You fixate on something. You're like, I can't do anything else until I figure out what color their sofa is, and that's just your brain trying to keep you from going forward. So in those situations, give them any name you feel like, even if it's not even a word, because you can just go back and change their names. I've definitely given characters just a temporary name and then gone back and changed their names because I just needed to move on. So I said, I'll call you Mr. Toaster or whatever. I'll call you whatever I want to continue working, and then I'll go back and adjust later. That would be my tip.
It's a great tip. Thank you. And can I ask something more?
Sure.
One more, yes.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, obviously, what is the hardest book that you have written? Like, what was the most difficult book to finish?
I think that in terms of complexity, the 3 parts of Truly Devious it was the kind of big balancing act. The good part was that I had a structure. I built the structure first, but making everything come together the way it does in the end of the hand on the wall. I tried to make every storyline add up, and I used a trick I'd seen a long time ago where you take a big piece of paper and you write all the characters and all the storylines, and then you kind of draw little lines down from them.
Yes, I also use that.
And then you kind of get it so that everything twists and meets up at the end. And so that is what I did. I tried to make every single line come together into is pretty much a point. So that was a bit of a balancing act. It was a lot of story math. It was a lot of thinking about logic and timing and things like that.
Yeah, I do that after I finish mystery crime book, because it helps me realize what were the connections between characters and the logic of the story. So yeah.
I used to do a lot of logic puzzles. I like those ones where it says so-and-so is sitting next to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is sitting in a red chair, and you have to figure out who's sitting where. I like logic puzzles. So it was like doing the way I describe writing that series is it's like I was trying to do a word problem in math for 4 years. But it was fun.
Yes. Thank you. It was wonderful to meet you.
Oh, so nice to meet you.
Thank you, Anka. Thank you. My last question for you is, do you have a post-pandemic bucket list?
Yes.
Things to do, places to go.
Oh, so many. Well, my husband is English, like we said, so we go to England at least once a year to see his family. And that's the first thing we want to do is go and see the family in England. We feel like it's going to be a while, especially because America is not handling the pandemic very well. So no one will let us in for a long time. For good reason. And also I don't want to get on a plane until this is all there's just no, but we really want to go to England and see everybody. One of my things I really wanted to do was breathe air without a mask on. And being able to come here and isolate in this house, I've been able to sit outside on that deck without a mask on, which we can't do in New York City. So I've not gone outside without having my face covered since March. So that was really exciting. We'd like to go to England. We'd like to see our family. I'd like to see my family again. I haven't seen my family. See my family again.
How is your mother? I know I read that she's a nurse. Is she still working?
No, she is retired, which makes me very happy because she would have been dealing with, she was a nurse at it's a technical high school, which means it has things like construction shops and automotive shops, but she was in charge of 1,200 students and she would have had to do all of the health planning for that. And I'm very, very glad she's not doing it. But I will say that she is a retired nurse. And so she felt guilty all the time because she felt like I should be out there fighting the virus. I should be out there helping. And I said, don't leave your house.
Yeah, I know the feeling because I have someone in family that reacts exactly the same. I should be there. And I said, she's older and she, could get sick. And so they haven't been out of the house at all since March. They haven't been to a store. They haven't been anywhere at all, which I get all their food. I have all their food delivered to them. They don't go out at all. So I would like to see them again, but only when it's safe. And it's not safe yet. And it may not be safe for a while because it's getting worse in America. Unfortunately, it's not getting better. So because we're not making very good choices. It's getting worse in Romania too.
Is it?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's hope for the better and that we will see each other next year when you will come to launch a book in Cărturești Carousel. We will send you pictures from that most beautiful library.
I would love.
Bookstore, sorry. Guys, now you can unmute and let me see you and send your love to Maureen.
Thank you guys so much. I apologize that I thought it was tomorrow. Partially what the pandemic has done has made me very confused about what day it is, because we do the same thing every day usually, which means that every day is, I'm like, is it Monday? Is it Fleurs Day? Is it Flibberty Gibbet Day? I don't know what day it is. I don't know what's happening. I thought I knew what I was doing with this. I had a big reminder on my calendar that said Romania on it, and I put it on the wrong day because,
It's okay.
you know.
But you're still amazing, even though you didn't know exactly the date.
You know what? I have, this is my undone hair from being rained on yesterday. So, you know, it's very au natural.
Yes. And you look great. Don't worry.
Look, you guys have been very understanding. Thank you. But I am glad I got to show you this place, because in terms of places you can imagine being stuck with all of these things to read, you don't have to bring books to Cassie's, because there's always something to grab off the shelf. And it's a good time to read. It's a good time to write. Like, that's a benefit of this. Burn through that book pile, work on that story. It's a good time for indoor people.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Maureen, for being with us today. And we really, really hope to have you in Romania next year.
And I would love to be there. Take care, everybody. I hope that you stay safe and read lots and stay safe some more.
Yes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.